Okay, so welcome to the very last section of the MayaStar menu. It's an interesting section, primarily used for resizing your mesh clothing to fit the 5 standard sizes, mainly. You can also use it for my 3 body types for fitted mesh, which I don't think anybody has ever actually used. At least nobody's ever gotten back to me and said, they tried using it, and it works. I know it works in theory, but, and I have a feeling nobody uses it. Oh, the poor little thing. Okay, so auto mesh resizing. Okay, I'm going to tear this off. Looks fairly simple. What you do is you simply click Activate Auto Resizing. This is most easiest to work with non-rigged mesh. You can use it with rigged mesh, but it gets a lot trickier. And I'm just going to kind of overview it. I'm not going to go in real detail. I have another video that does go into detail about it. So this is a sort of an overview so that people who are new to MayaStar will know what the feature is and how it's theoretically supposed to be used and work. Okay, so you activate MayaStar. Activate Auto Mesh Resizing. You have your mesh and you've rigged it to the M bones, the classic rigging. This is usually done for, like I said, classic rigging. The 5 standard sizes is what the auto mesh resizing is normally used for. If any of you actually do the 5 or the 3 body types for fitted mesh, please let me know. It'd be nice to know if actually somebody is using it and how successful it is for them. Would be nice. I have no idea if my three body type system for fitted mesh, if it actually really is of use to anybody. Okay, so anyway, so we're going to talk from the perspective of this is for automatically resizing your mesh clothes to fit the 5 standard sizes, or at least as automatically as I can make it. You still have to do some things manually. So anyway, I activated the auto resizing. You'll notice that the avatar changed color and is now white, and is actually now, instead of 3 separate objects, this is a single mesh avatar instead of 3. We come here to the channel box, or the layer, layers. You'll notice that it's this white one. See, the avatar is white, this is white. The skeleton is blue, that's why this is blue. This is supposed to kind of represent the overall skin color of the avatar. Although that looks a little dark, maybe it's just an optical illusion, than the real avatar's skin. Oh, fairly close, some areas. So that kind of gives you a clue. So anyway, so you have this, and this is a single avatar mesh. It's not 3, it's 1, and it is used to create a wrap between your mesh clothing and it. Let's see, maybe I can do something real quick. Let's see, go back to polygons. Say I'm going to take a cylinder. It's going to be a really quick and dirty example. The most ugliest tube dress that you've ever seen. Okay. So I need to come here in the channel box, and I need to make division. Add some division there, maybe a little bit more, and and maybe a little more. Okay. Then I'm going to delete the history. That gets rid of this. It's freezing. I'm going to freeze transformation. Okay. And I'll click delete history again. Okay. So, say we've already rigged it. We've saved our weights using something like Dora. Sad thing is that Dora skin weights does not work with 2016. There are other exporters for saving the weights in a digital format, you know, where it actually saves the actual numbers instead of an image. I like using Dora skin weights. Cannot find procedure Dora skin weights. Oh, that's probably because I didn't install it in this one. Darn it. Okay, well anyway, I'll provide a link to where you can download the Dora skin weights. Anyway, so, but this is unrigged. Okay, and say we want to get it to fit the 5 standard sizes. So if you remember, we started off with the default avatar, you know, and now we want to make, okay, so what we did was we had our mesh clothing selected first, and we came in here and we clicked activate auto resizing. And what that does is it hides the real one, shows the default avatar, shows the auto resize avatar mesh, and it opens up this create wrap. And you can just use the default settings. And there's a difference between surface and volume, but I find volume seems to work better. And we'll just click create. Okay, so that was pretty fast. And let's just hope it, yep, it did. Okay, see, if you have wireframe on shaded turn on, when I select the avatar, see this turns pink, these lines turn pink, these edges. That means that there's a connection between here and here. So now when we open up our female appearance editor, and come over here, I'm going to make this a little more. Come over here to sizes. We were to go to large. We've created a wrap so that when the avatar changes shape, it changes the clothes at the same time. And so then what you do is in the channel box, you have some outputs, you know, and I go over this in very much detail in another video, so I'm not going to go into a lot of video. So you have these inputs that you can play with, these settings, the drop off, the smoothness, you know, and you see it smooth the dress out a bit. You know, 2 is probably too much. 1, was that 0? Yeah, see, there was 0, so maybe 0.5 smooths it out just a little bit. So you play with these different settings. There's these 2 settings here, and then there's this wrap. See, it created a wrap, and then you can play with these different ones. Like I said, I go into a lot of detail on how to do this. This is just to kind of give you an idea. So say you were happy with the smoothness of 0.1, you know, of your dress. And so then you would select just your mesh dress. Even though it looks like the avatar is selected, it's not. It's white because the layer box, see, this is white. If I were to make that, let's make this purple. Now the edges of that are purple instead. So it was only white because I had this set to white because the avatar was white. It looked like it was selected. You know how you select multiple things and it turns one of them white, so that's why it might have thrown you off. Anyway, so we select our mesh dress and we Control D to duplicate it, and what that does is it sets the shape. this shape is not set. This shape is dependent on this wrap node. You know, if you try to export it out, it wouldn't have this wrap node, and it would go back to the original shape. So that's why you have to duplicate it. So we have our large, and you can come over here and you can name it large. You know, and you have your large shape. And then you come over here and you can go medium. And if you notice, you saw that it changed shape again, and you Control D it again to duplicate it. Medium. Now you have your medium. And you come down here and you do small. And now you got your small, so you duplicate it again. And you go small. And you got your small. And then you do extra small. And you duplicate it. Extra small. And then, of course, you can duplicate it again and duplicate it. And you have your extra, extra small. Extra small. So now you have all 5 sizes. And you can come in here and you can go into vertex mode if you needed to move a particular vertice. Let's see. Yeah. So if you needed to move it slightly, you could. Might be a little tricky. Yeah, so you can move it slightly if you needed to move it to make changes. Or you could have made the changes on the duplicate. Get it as close as you can, and then change it on the duplicate so that you don't have any poke through. So that's how you can get the 5 standard sizes. Now, if you had saved your weights out using Dora's skin weights or another skin weight saving program such as Comet, where it saves it actually as a digital format, as a numeric format instead of an image format, then what you would do is you would after reattaching, rigging it to the skeleton, you would import the weights. Now, actually, because it's been so long since I've done this, made a basic error. Okay, we started off with large. We got it to look the way we wanted. Now, I had completely forgotten about this step, and this is super important. You want to click Bind Pose. Now watch the avatar change shape slightly. That's the duplicate you want. You want to duplicate that. This is what you want to duplicate, is after you hit Bind Pose. Okay? Because the Bind Pose, now the reason I'm telling you that is that when you click Bind Pose, it resets the skeleton back to the default settings, the skeleton, the default arm lengths, the default everything. And that's the skeleton you have to rig your mesh clothing to in order for it to upload correctly. So even though, I'll just delete that out of the way. So even though it will look like that, okay, even though it will look like this and you go, well, that doesn't look right. That mesh dress doesn't fit her at all. That's the default mesh avatar. You know, it's only because the skeleton is exactly the same. So you go large, mesh, Bind Pose. This skeleton is exactly the same. Oh, that's right, I've got to turn on the skeleton so you can see it. Okay, this skeleton here, because we hit Bind Pose, is the same exact skeleton as that. You see, the only thing that changed between the bind pose and here was that the morphs, the blend shapes, went back to their default settings. You see, that, you know, and so you want to go back to the bind pose. You know, now this mesh right here is not being influenced by this. That's why it didn't change shape. We duplicated it, remember, after we went to bind pose. So what's going to happen when you wear this mesh? You know, if you wear this mesh and you wear the default shape, yes, it will look just like this. But if you were to put on this shape, the large, this mesh would change, because notice how the bones change position. See how the bones change position? The shoulders get narrower, the arms get longer, you know. So the bones actually move and change position, which is going to take this mesh dress and it's going to reshape it as the skeleton changes. That's why you have to go back to the bind pose before you make the duplicate. You don't want to go back to the mesh default, because the mesh default will change the shape of the avatar, and because here, I'll show you. Let me Control Z. See if I can't get back to where. I shouldn't have deleted that one that had the. Come on. So I'm trying to get back to where before I deleted. There we go. Okay, so this is the original, right? You notice how it is different, because this is the one that we duplicated after we went to the bind pose. Now these two are identical. Get this out of the way. You'll be able to see it. Okay. This one and this one are identical, because I went back to the bind pose. Okay. If I had went to the mesh default before I duplicated it, see, it's perfectly cylinder, straight up and down. That's why you have to go from the custom 5 standard sizes to the bind pose before you make the duplicate, before we duplicated it. Okay, so that's really, really super important. And I have, you know, note down here, I have a little thing to try to remind you, you know, where I go over that. So I try to put little notes and reminders everywhere to try to help you guys along your way to remind you. Oh yeah, that's right. So okay, so let's see. Now you can also do the same thing. Oh, and here's another thing I messed up on. Is, okay, it happened to work okay here. We didn't get anything really shooting out in weird directions, any vertices, which we were actually very lucky. Because the avatar is so small. The avatar is so small that when we change the shape of the avatar, the wrap sometimes freaks out because the vertices of the avatar are so close together because it's so small. If you're going to be doing the 5 standard sizes, I highly recommend, after activating the Auto Mesh Resizing, clicking the large avatar. It's 100 times bigger, which means the distance between these 2 points are 100 times farther apart, which means you're much less likely going to get vertices of your dress, you know, of your mesh clothing, shooting out at all these weird angles. That's what the larger avatar is for. So I would go activate Auto Mesh Resizing, and then doing the smooth bind to it, because they don't freak out until you start changing the shape of the avatar. And then you know, actually that didn't look as bad as I thought it did. So anyway, so that's what that's for. Or you can do it to where, you can do it this way as well. Okay, let's come down here. Oh, delete that. Let's go back to the mesh default. Okay, mesh default is just a straight cylinder. I am actually going to delete the history of it, so it's no longer connected. Okay, and you can go larger avatar. So now we got the bigger avatar. There's our little tiny mesh dress down here. Hold down the D key, and I'm going to switch to snap. Oh, snap to grid is what you want. Hold down the D key or the insert key, and I'm going to click on the middle of the grid. So now when I scale up, that's going to scale up from that position, because that's what the avatar scaled up from. Put this to 100. Okay. And I believe it's this way. Activate Auto Mesh Resizer. Okay, I'm trying to remember. Create wrap. Let me see. Where is it? Create deformer. Create wrap. Okay, select the surfaces and then the influenced object and an influence object. That means select your mesh clothing first and the object that you want it to be influenced by. So if you're going to scale it up this big, in this manner, instead of wrapping it first and scaling it up larger, you select your mesh clothing first, hold down the shift key, select the avatar, and then click create. Okay, and now you can go to the 5 standard sizes. Where are the 5 standard sizes? Oh. Okay, there we go. There we go. And so you can do it on the larger avatar. Everything is much less touchy on the larger avatar. So, okay, go to bind pose. I just decided to put it there just in case somebody wanted to do this to something that was a different position other than the T-pose. I mean, you know, so if you had an A-pose mesh that you needed to auto-resize, you could create, you know, rotate the bones into the correct position first, then go to bind pose to make that the bind pose. So that in this process, when you click go to bind pose, it doesn't go back to the T-pose that you had before. So that's what this is for. So that, like I said, if you originally created your mesh clothing to fit a different, other than the T-pose, you could still use it. And you can make any chain, you can make any size. Now this is kind of a bad example because this was a tube. This didn't hug the body at all. This wasn't a regular mesh dress, you know. You know, it does much better when it's actually mesh clothing, not a tube. So try not to judge it on that. But you can do it with you know, different body types. You know, see, there's voluptuous. It actually starts to fit a little bit better. Hourglass. You know, but you can make any size in between. You know, so if you were doing, if you wanted to make a maternity version of your dress, you could just make her belly bigger, if it will go. So with the sliders. So any shape you can make with the sliders, you can use that with the auto mesh resizing system. So awesome. So that covers the last, like I said, and this is just kind of an overview of the auto mesh resizer. I have a mesh resizer video that goes into much more detail about the different settings for the wraps. You know, the different settings for the wraps and the different settings in the channel box, and how to do all that kind of stuff, and how to. And I think I do have a video that shows the 3 body types that I have and all that. So I go into a lot more detail if you want to know more about the auto. Like I said, this is just sort of an overview, an in-depth overview, but not quite as in-depth as I could go on how to do it. So awesome. So finally I've reached the end of the MayaStar menu, and you should now be very familiar with everything in there, and you'll be able to go back and refer to different videos without having to go through. I think my original video was like an hour and a half long, or an hour long. So now at least you'll be able to go to the section of the MayaStar menu video and just watch a video that's, between, I think the shortest video is 7 or 8 minutes long, and most of them were average on 15 minutes long. So at least you should be able to get to those and not have to try to scroll through an hour-long video. So awesome. Well, thanks again for buying MayaStar 4.5. I will be coming out with MayaStar 4.6 very, very soon as I fix the Bento avatar's skeleton bean bones and look into that BVH little glitch. So awesome. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.